Gute Woche. We will review a little bit of the Farbrengen of this afternoon. The Rebbe Zulgazan began to Farbrengen that we are in the month of Elul. The month of Elul is a month of making a cheshbon, an accounting for the previous year, for the outgoing year, as well as preparing ourselves properly for the year which we are entering into. And when we're talking about making a proper evaluation of the year that passed, Rabbi right away mentioned that Elul is one entire month. So the way it works is that every day of Elul we do tshuva, we rectify that specific day of the entire year. For example, if today is Beis Elul, it has to do with all the bases of the entire year. Tomorrow is Gimel Elul, it would have to do with all the Gimels, the Gimel of every month of the entire year. That means that this is the Rebbe spoken previously, but different. There is a Kisvei Arizal, which the Rebbe mentions many times, that we have Aseres Yemei Tshuva. Aseres Yemei Tshuva consists of the 7 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and this gives us a total of 10. However, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, all we have is 7 days. So the Arizal says that these 7 days are also, so we have every day of the week. We have a Sunday, we have a Monday, if we have 7 days, we're bound to have an entire week. Says the Arizal, that it means that every Sunday we should do, the Sunday of Aseres Yemei Tshuva is the Tshuva for all the Sundays of the entire year, the same the Monday, the same the Tuesday, and so forth. Or in another way the Rebbe has spoken previously, this I think is on behalf of the previous Rabbeim, that from Chai Elul until Rosh Hashanah we have 12 days. So this also corresponds to the 12 months of the year, and Mamela each day to rectify and to be mashlim and to complete whatever we have missed out through that particular month. Today the Rebbe introduced a new concept, how every day in Elul has to do with that date of the entire year. So Mamela, what we do is we do the tshuva for the year that has passed, as well as prepare ourselves for the year which we will enter. And as the Rebbe keeps on emphasizing, the year that we're going out of is a very special year. It's a year of Tashmeit, Shnas Tashmeit Yodecha, which means that it's a year when we are requesting from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the Rebbe should let go relinquish all the loans which we are indebted to him. And we are entering a very special year, and we are entering a year of Tafshin Nun, as the Rebbe keeps on emphasizing. It's a year of Tehei Shnas Nisan. But also Bavarum. Elul has 29 days. 29th of Elul is already Rosh Hashanah. Is Erev Rosh Hashanah, I'm sorry. The 30th of Elul, there's no 30 days in Elul. The Elul has 29 days. The 29th of Elul is Erev Rosh Hashanah. And there are months in the year that have 30 days. So how does that stem? The Rebbe says, so the same thing we have with the Yom Tilim. Tilim, we say every day, the way Tilim is divided according to the month. And we have the Tehillim, we say a certain amount of kapitel every day. So there are certain months. A month that has 30 days, there's a separate Yom for Chavtes, there's a separate Yom for 30. However, a month that only has 29 days, we say on that day, both Yoms of Til. Same says the Rebbe, what does that show? It shows that day really has the strength, Sai of Chavtes and Sai of Lamed. And maybe when it will come the day of Chavtes Elul, we will be able to accomplish in Chavtes and rectify all the Chavteses of the year, and together with it for all those months that had a Lamed as well. And they say that everything relates to Parshas HaShavua. It's the famous vote, which the Rebbe always keeps on mentioning in the Alter Rebbe mit Afleb mit der Zeit. So this week said there is Parshas Shoftim. What's the meaning of Shoftim? Shoftim v'shoitrim titel l'cha b'chol sha'arecha. Torah addresses itself to each and every yid, and speaking in an expression of singular, titein l'cha, to you, to each and every yid. It does not say a plural expression addressing to all yidden. It's an expression to each individual yid. And what is each individual yid told? That he is given. He's given an authority to place shoftim v'shoitrim at all your gates. Titein. Titein means a lashon of nesina, a lashon of giving. And the Rebbe says whenever we have an expression of giving, there's an expression in Gemara, kol hanoisein ba'ayin yofen noisein. Anyone that gives with a good eye. The Mela here we are saying that the Rebbe has given special koyches to each and every yid, that every yid should be in charge of the sha'arim of the gates. What's the pshat? Every yid is given an asinas koyach to care for himself as well as to care for others. What's the inyan of a shah? A shah is a gate. A gate is the taich, it's an entrance, it's a control to a place. You control a place by controlling its gates. The Mela says the Rebbe the same idea. A yid should know that his responsibility is for himself, and at the same time every yid has to be a shliach tzibur and worry for other yid. The Rebbe mentioned it here, and the Rebbe mentioned it later in Farbrengen as well. The major responsibility that each and every yid has to reach out to other yidden as well, and he's given this power, he's given this opportunity. And Torah gives him an asinas koyach to do so, that he should reach out bechol sha'arecha and at all gates. Meaning reach out to all areas and to all places. Nida Rebbe brought in a taich. What's the meaning of shoftim v'shoitrim? A shofet is a judge, and a shoiter, how do we taich? Those are the people that implement whatever the judge has sentenced. If we speak it in a Chassidish interpretation, what's the meaning of shoftim v'shoitrim? Shofet is the avodah of moyach, the avodah of moichin. And shoitrim, that's the avodah of midas. This relates very well to what a shofet does, as to what the shoiter does. And here we are told that this is what the Rebbe wants from every yid. The Rebbe has given these koyches to every yid, that he should do side avodah with his moyach, and side avodah with his midas, and side avodah with moichan, and side avodah with midas. All of this to implement it on himself, as well as to implement it on others. And here we come to another taich, a very famous taich, which is brought in Svarim. The Rebbe refers to it today. The Rebbe spoke about it at length this week when the Rebbe spoke to the children. When children came back from camp. Taich, I think, is originally in the Shach. Shach of Shulchan Aruch also wrote a Pirush ala Torah. And the Shach ala Torah, he brings the taich, Shoftim v'shoitrim titel l'cha b'chol sha'arecha, that a person has to place judges at all of his gates. What's the pshat a gate? A gate is an area that you can open a gate and you can close a gate. An opening. What's the meaning of an opening within a person? A person in his body also has 5 different openings. And those are the ears, the eyes, the mouth, and the nose. And all of these spots within a person, Torah tells us, Shoftim v'shoitrim titel l'cha b'chol sha'arecha. You are supposed to control these sha'arim within you. In other words, to make sure that whatever goes into each and every one of these gates is something which is suitable and proper. And don't let in, keep a control over these gates. Don't let in what should not go in. In other words, don't listen to what you're not supposed to, don't look where you're not supposed to, don't talk what you're not supposed to, as well as the Indian of Reyach. The Rebbe spoke about it, I think it was Tuesday, that there's the Indian of the Reyach. Reyach we utilize. Mara says regarding Reyach, that Reyach is something very spiritual. Mara uses the expression Reyach sh'haneshama ne'enes by. The neshama has a hanoah, has a special, specific enjoyment from Reyach. So here we say that odor, scenting, also make sure that whatever you scent, starting from every Motzei Shabbos, how we practice the Inyan of Reyach with Psamim, the Beiramina Psamim, which will make a bracha on every Motzei Shabbos, and starting from this to make sure that also the area of scenting, of odor, also to utilize this as well as the other gates within a person's body, that all of this should be utilized for Kedusha only. Shoftim v'shoitrim titan lecha b'chol sha'arecha. But it says the end of today's Sedra, talks about Egla Rufa, something which is very undesirable. An Indian which mitzad atzmai really doesn't have any shaykhs to give. The only Indian of Misa, how did Misa come down into this world? This comes as a result of Chetei Tzadas and from Chatoyim and so forth. Even the mitzad himself really would have no shaykhs to all of this. So the end of the Sedra is an undesirable Indian. However, the beginning of the Sedra is something which is we just discussed. Shoftim v'shoitrim titan lecha b'chol sha'arecha. This is something which is giving Yid a tremendous nesinas koyach to firois the avodah of Elul. And especially we know that the avodah of Elul is in such a way, ani ledoidi v'doidi li. What does it mean? It starts with ani ledoidi. In other words, first what's demanded is the isagusa de latata, which comes from every Yid. Once there's the ani ledoidi from a Yid, this already leads and brings to it as al zayin de v'doidi li, the response from the Rebishter. Especially we know that what is the month of Elul? The month of Elul, we know the famous mashal which the Alter Rebbe brings. L'Kutei Torah, famous mashal of Melech Basada, king in the field. That's what Elul is. When a king is in the field, everybody has access to it. And the king, on the other hand, in return, also responds to everybody, very warm, very greets everybody, b'seva parim yafes, greets everybody in a very friendly way, in a very warm way. However, it is not as when the king is in his palace, because there's a certain openness, a certain closeness which prevails when the king is in the field. And this is the concept of ani l'doidi v'doidi li, that we have to make use of this access which we have to the Melech during the month of Elul. During the month of Elul, we can get close to him, because the Melech befindet sich basada. And this is the same idea is emphasized in the concept of Shoftim v'shoitrim titan lecha b'chol sha'arecha as well. Also to make sure that a Yid brings in his balabatishkeit, the balabatishkeit of Torah, the balabatishkeit of the Rebishter, instills the Rebishter, instills Kedusha into kol sha'arecha, into all his gates. In other words, wherever he can only have his shaykhs to make sure that is where he reaches out, not only to satisfy himself, to make sure that he takes care of others as well. Rabbi brought, there's an expression, kshoit atzmecha v'hakach kshoit acheir. Take care, beautify yourself, then you'll beautify others. So Rabbi is bringing it on one hand. It shows that a person should not neglect himself. He has to make sure that he has to take care of himself before he gets involved with taking care of others. On the other hand, there's a type, the Rebbe spoke previously about it, elaborated on it previously, and today he also mentioned it in a bypassing way. What's the type kshoit? Kshoit means to beautify. It's an expression in Gemara, chavdalet kishutei kala. There are 24 items of beauty which are used on the kala. When it's a question of beautifying oneself, beauty means something which is additional, something which is not mandatory. You're talking about beauty. Putzen sich. When you're talking about putz, then you can imply a concept of kshoit atzmecha, v'achakach kshoit acheir. Then you go ahead, first you beautify yourself, and then you go ahead and beautify others. But if it's a question of saving others, if it's a question of rescuing others, then we have to know just as equal we are responsible of taking care of ourselves, we are equally responsible to reach out to others and make sure that we are rescuing the other Yid as well. And this is an opportunity which we have to make sure to reach out to other Yid. Then the Rebbe continued in the second Sikha, the Farbrengen. It was not a long Farbrengen today. The Farbrengen was over, I'd say before 4. The Rebbe came in a little later than usual. The Rebbe came in almost 10 to 2. The Rebbe says it's customary that during Farbrengens we also refer to the Rambam, to the daily Shir of Rambam, as Rambam is learned on 3 prakim a day. I mentioned that Bechlal, the Indian of people participating in this shiur of learning 3 prakim a day. It's growing and it's expanding, and more people are joining in, learning Rambam on a daily basis, and particularly Taka 3 prakim a day. And in today's shiur it comes out the completion of a halacha, the halachas of choyvel u'mazik, the halachas of damaging. Let us look through at the last halacha of this perek. Rambam tells us, Svina shechoshva lehishaber mechoyvet hamasui. A boat that's sailing in the water, and the boat is about to break from the heaviness. There's something very heavy, and should this something which is so heavy remain in the boat, it would lead to it that the boat will break. For Omad Echad Mehen, and one of the people who are traveling on this boat got up, the Hokel Mimasaha, and wanted to make lighter the weight on the boat. The Hishlich Bayam, and he took whatever caused the overweight on the boat and threw it into the water. Says the Rambam Potter. He's Potter. Shahamasa Shaba Kamiride Fachreyem Lahovda. The massa, the weight that's in this boat, has the same halacha as somebody that's chasing after them to kill them. Mitzvah Rabba Osa, the person that did this, not only is he not obligated to pay by causing somebody the loss of this heavyweight item, but it's considered that he did a great mitzvah, shehishlich, that he threw this into the water, v'hoishiyam, and he helped them more. So the Rambam concludes these halachas with the word v'hoishiyam, and he helped them, he saved them. Shiyam is Meloshen Yeshua. The Rebbe says it's broken Sforim. Something very interesting. There's a pasuk. V'hoya emunas itecha choisen Yeshuas. It's in Ilchus Chayvel Amazik, the last period. So the Gemara Masechta Shabbos. This pasuk teaches us this pasuk, that this pasuk refers to the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Emunas has to do with Zoyim. What's the shaykhus between Emunah and Zoyim? The Gemara explains, Rashi explains, the Gemara explains. When does a person plant? When a person is involved in his field work, it's Mamin B'chei Ha'olamim V'Zoreh. He has a Emunah in the Eibishter, and then he plants. So the entire planting, so that the planting should come out to be successful, is based on Emunah. Mamin B'chei Ha'olamim V'Zoreh. So the word Emunah relates to Seder Zoyim. Then the pasuk goes on, Yeshuos, Zeh Seder Nezikin. Simple Nezikin, one damages another, one causes damage to somebody else. But what does this Masechta, all these Masechtas, that Seder Mishnayos teaches us? It helps us how to go about and solve the damage from one person to another. So Yeshua, says the Gemara, is a Seder Nezikin. Now when the Rambam is into the Sefer of Nezikin, it's only appropriate that when the Rambam finishes a halacha, it's usually an emphasis on something. To imply here the word v'hoishiyam, this v'hoishiyam is a reminder, corresponds to the Yeshuais. Yeshua is the same word, to the Yeshuais of Seder Nezikin. But Bechlal, what we're deriving here from the Rambam is the great importance of every Yid. The Rambam says that a person can go ahead and do such a thing. Why? Because every single Yid is important. And as the expression goes, that Kol HaMakayim Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael, anybody that saves one Jewish life, Ke'ilu Kayim Olam Mala, it's as is, he has saved an entire world. And the Rebbe says today that the word Ke'ilu, letter Kaf, sometimes it's only used as a comparison. In other words, it's not as, it's as if. Sometimes the letter Kaf even makes it stronger than what we are comparing to, which really shows us how powerful and how great Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael is. Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael can accomplish meirah things, and as the Rambam here is talking about a boat, the Rebbe says the whole union of the boat traveling in waters,
There are mamorim from the Friedrich Rebbe, particularly mamorim that have to do with Yud Beis Tammuz, where in the mamorim of Yud Beis Tammuz, the Friedrich Rebbe brings out the inyan of Yordei Hayom Ba'oniyos. What shaykhs does it have to Yud Beis Tammuz? Yud Beis Tammuz, the Friedrich Rebbe was released from prison. So the first mamorim, which he said, as soon as he was released, a day later, or 2 days later, the Shabbos later, were all based on Baruch HaGoymer L'Chayovim Toivus, the concept of benching Goymer. Who are those that have to bench Goymer? Basically, it's divided into 4 categories. So the Rebbe brings it in the Yud Beis Tammuz Maimah. V'chol hachayim yoiducha sela. Yoiducha means all those that are in the category of chayim. Chayim is an abbreviation. Yoiducha will praise you, sela, eternally. Chayim abbreviates choyle, yam, yisurim, midbar. Anybody that went through any of these categories, for Shalom's sake, or he traveled in waters, or went through Yisurim, which is the same idea as prison. Prison comes in the category of Yisurim. Or he traveled in a midbar, traveled in a desert, and came out safely. All these have to bench Goyim. And naturally, the Friedrich Rebbe, when he came out after he was released on Yud Beis Tammuz, he also benched Goyim. So in these Mamorim, there he brings out in Ruchnias, what's the inyan of one traveling on waters? Just like a boat sails in water. What's the inyan of water? It's based on what's brought out previous Chassidus. The whole inyan of water, there's a mayim rabim. There's this flow of strong water, and this water is basically stands for the entire concept of Gashmias. Gashmias and the worries of Parnasa which a person has, which all this is like a flow of strong water, which is Chas v'Shalom trying to destroy the person. And when a person overcomes and he travels through the water safely, then he's achieved something very high. As the Rebbe brought out today, the word Toldos in the Torah, Toldos could be written Chaser, it could be written Molei, could be written with Vavs, could be written without Vavs. So there is Eila Toldos HaShamayim V'Haaretz B'Yibaram. The Toldos of Shamayim V'Haaretz and Shamayim V'Haaretz is being created. Then we have Eila Toldos Peretz. Peretz, the children of Yehuda. What's Eila Toldos Peretz? That's what's going to lead to Mashiach. David HaMelech, the whole lineage of Malchus Vayid, and the whole lineage of Mashiach. So there's Toldos Molei, how Toldos is spelled in full, the way it stands when the world was created. However, the Toldos Molei which we have by Peretz, this is a much higher Toldos Molei than the world was initially. Why? Because here's Mishin durchgegangen, Hayiden, so it's durchgeführt, it was accomplished, the whole concept of Dira B'Tachteinim. All of this was already accomplished. The Mela, what the world is at, when we're coming to Eila Toldos Peretz, doesn't means the descendants of Peretz. Who will be descendants of Peretz? Mashiach. So then the world will be in its highest peak, at its highest level of Birurim, and its highest level of what the world can reach to. What leads to all this? When we really treasure how dear each and every Yid is. Kola mekayim nefesh achas miyisrael. Person who saves the life even of one Yid. Kilu kayim olam molei. Why? Because it's each and every Yid that's contributing with his avodah to lead to it, to the ultimate elevation, what will be when the world will be at its highest peak of elevation. And when we're talking about waters, there's an expression also, mitzulos yam, which also means in the depth of waters. A lot of times we go out and we search in the depth of waters. We search in the depth of waters, and we may be successful to find valuables in the depth of waters, to find things which are very precious in the depth of waters. The same the Rebbe says, it's our need to go out and search. What do we mean by searching? Here the Rebbe means by searching, going out and reaching out to other Yidden who are covered, just like water covers an item. What's the whole meaning of water? When something, see this elaborates on it at length, when something falls into water, the item is there in its full completeness. However, it is covered. It's not missing anything, it's not broken, it's not lost. The einzige Sache is, it's covered with water. That's why we have no access to it, because it's covered. Says the Rebbe the same thing when we're talking about Yidden. There are Yidden that are covered with waters. They are drowning in waters. They are Yidden, Shamas Begufim, And what is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to reach out to these Yidden and make sure that we bring them out. We bring them out of them being covered in waters, and we make sure we bring them out and we have access to them, and we lift them up, uplift them to the extent that they become proper Yidden as it should be. The Rebbe got back to Elul and reminded us about the famous custom of Elul, which originates from the Baal Shem Tov, that during the month of Elul we say 3 kapitlach a day, starting from the first day of Elul, and then when it comes to Yom Kippur, we are left with 36 if we practice it on a daily basis by saying every day 3 kapitlach. It comes to Yom Kippur, we are left with 36 kapitlach, and these 36, we all know in the Machzor the way they are divided, by saying the last 9 kapitlach after Nile, we complete the Tillah. The Rebbe urged today on the importance of fulfilling this minhag. And the Rebbe mentioned that somewhere here at the end of the second sikha, or the third sikha, which was a very short sikha, what the Rebbe called, for those that have submitted mashke, the Rebbe mentioned about how we are already anxiously waiting for the coming of Mashiach, and it's kvar kolu kol kitzin, all kates and all indications of dates for when Mashiach will come have already passed. Though the Rebbe says in Navi we are told that before the Indian of Geula there will be the Milchama of Gog and Magog, which Navi talks about. But the Rebbe says we have already passed so many times when Mashiach should have come already. And as the Frierdiker Rebbe had the famous expression that all we are lacking is the world is ready for the coming of Mashiach, and all we are lacking is the tzuputzel of the knepla to make sure that the buttons are shining. And the Rebbe says that we already passed that too. The buttons are also shining. So the Rebbe says there's no reason for the Geula to be delayed, and Yidden are constantly begging from the Rebishter ad Mosai how much longer. So Mamela, why wait and delay? It already came to the highest peak that the Rebishter should take us out of Golas. The Rebbe concluded that those that have submitted mashkis for Siyam or any other type of celebration should soll naruf kommen, as I say in Yiddish, should come up, soll naruf kommen. But it has a deeper meaning also. It doesn't just mean to come up in Gashmis, it means to be elevated in Ruchnis. The Rebbe implied that as well. The Rebbe said those that have submitted mashke, as well as all of us, should be elevated a level higher. And here the Rebbe referred to this week's Sedra. This week's Sedra begins with Ki Seitze la Milchama Aloi Vecha. And the grammar should not be Aloi Vecha. Grammar should be Ki Seitze la Milchama Imoi Vecha. You will go out into battle and you will be in a war with your enemy. And then the pasuk goes on saying what we're talking about. But no, the Torah here tells us some very dike zach. The Torah here tells us that when a Yid should know that he's in a battle. We're in a constant battle. We have a battle with whom? With the Yetzer Hara. And this is what we constantly have the battle with. So Yid will listen that the Torah tells him, Ki seitzi la milchama, when you will go out into the war, you should know aloi vecha. You will always be above your enemy. In other words, the Torah gives a Yid a guarantee that when he will go into war, the milchama which each and every one of us has. The Rebbe refer there also milchamas and ruchniyas. We have spiritual wars within each and every person. So a person should know that when we're talking about this milchama, the Torah is giving a koyach. The Torah is giving a Yid a power that he should know it will be aloi vecha. And how dear every Yid is by the Rebishter. Mamela, we have to know. So this itself tells us how dear and precious every Yid is, and how dear and precious Torah is. Torah is something, as we said in today's Pirkei Avos, Torah is a kinyan. Kinyan echa. Torah is something which is acquired by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's owned by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So a Yid has to know that when he's going into the milchama of Torah, the milchama shel Torah, darf gleich wissen, stak ki seitze la milchama, and he has to do with his enemy. But at the same time, Torah tells us that he should know we will overcome and we will succeed. It will be in a way of aloi vecha. We will be on top of our Ayev.